What we call the Bible was put together over 1,600 years on 3 continents by close to 40 authors in 3 different languages. Some of its writers were kings, others teachers, shepherds, and fishermen. The early Christians inherited the Jewish scriptures, what we call the Old Testament, a collection composed of the same 39 books we have in the first portion of our Bibles. Contrary to what many believe or have heard, the New Testament books were not chosen or voted on, but instead were recognized as the writings closest to the community surrounding Jesus. What we actually have is a direct connection to the life and teaching of Jesus. Jesus' disciples mentored others, who we call the Apostolic Fathers, who then comment on what books did or didn't have a history, going back to the words and teachings of Jesus.
If you're talking about the text of the Bible, the earliest copies of those that we have come from Egypt.
Egypt has thousands of years of history with one of the world's oldest civilizations, a past that has direct crossover with stories we read about in the Bible. From Joseph and Moses to Jesus himself spending time here as an infant. But it's not just pyramids and pharaohs' tombs that make archaeology in this country so significant. Egypt lays claim to another title. Because of its dry climate and the fact that the papyrus plant, used as writing material in the ancient world, grew almost exclusively here, Egypt ends up being where the vast majority of our earliest surviving biblical manuscripts come from. Can I really trust the Bible? The Bible hasn't always looked like it does today. For hundreds of years, it existed as independent scrolls and writings. But how can we know that this mini ancient library we call the Bible contains the right books?
A big question that comes up that a lot of people ask are, well, what about those other documents? Now, we were just recently in Cairo, Egypt, and we were at the Coptic Museum looking at one of the Nag Hammadi texts, the Gospel of Thomas.
You know, we do have these other books, these other Gospels, with names like Peter and Thomas and Mary attached to them. So instead of taking your work and putting my name on, I'm going to take my work, I'm going to take my ideas and my ideologies and concepts, and I'm going to put your name on it.
So in other words, if you want to get more readership, if you want more people to buy into the book, put a name, attach a name to it that they're going to recognize.
And yeah, exactly. And so you had these ancient groups that we refer to as the Gnostics, the Docetics. And what they did is they appropriated Jesus and put their theology on the lips of Jesus in later centuries. And then they attached the names for credibility's sake to those documents. But we know, based on both the content and based on how we date these manuscripts, that they're coming from times when Thomas, when Peter, when Mary, when Judas were long dead.